Okay, the next step is to add our ultrasound sensor and our gyroscope module, which we constructed, to this chassis. And it's going to go right on top of this section right here. In order for this to work, we have to back out the red connector, because we're going to have to put these black pegs in place first and then push the connectors in. And you remember this other connector over here is a real pain to work with, and it's just going to be a real pain. There's just no way around it. The instructions say you might want a little screwdriver to help push it in place. I actually found that I grabbed an axle and shoved it with an axle end to help a little bit. I'm going to keep that out in case I need it. Okay, so now I've backed those out. The only things that are on the back side are these two. These are going to go into these two slots on the top of the frame piece for the chassis. And notice this is offset. The ultrasound sensor is centered, and the other sensor is sort of off to one side, just kind of dangling there. It's one reason why it'd be easy to take it off if we decide we don't want it on there. All right, so first I push down, the black pegs are in place, and now I shove these red pegs in place. This one's hard to shove, so I'm gonna turn it around and see if I can push it with my axle here. If I can see what I'm doing. Come on. There we go. Okay. That's it. The ultrasound sensor is in place. All right, so as we build this robot, I want to impress upon you the importance of power. This is the robot brick, and you notice that you can either put in the 6 AA batteries or the rechargeable battery pack. Once you have this brick on the robot chassis, you are not going to want to take it off again. So I strongly recommend that you use the rechargeable battery pack, and then we'll be able to plug it in to charge without removing it from the robot chassis. Okay, we are now ready to put on the supports for the brick itself, the brains, and then we'll install that as well. So if you remember, we built this a while back. This is part of the support. This is the back support for the brick, and we're going to put it in place right now. What you can see is on the red part, we have these 4 pegs. Those 4 pegs are going to go into these holes that are on the motor itself. And the red part just checking what I'm doing here. The red part will point toward the back. So I'm going to do that right now. Just slide down onto their spots. And that's it. That's the back support. And we're also going to build some supports in the middle to hold up the robot. I've constructed one of them. What you need for this is one of these little tubes, and you need a black peg and a gray peg. And there's this funny little L-shaped part. The drawings in Lego are always really bad to try to get across what's going on with this L-shaped part. It's got a hole at the L, at the corner of the L, and then it has 2 holes that are pointing toward each other, kind of. Okay, so we're going to put a black peg on one end of our tube and a gray one on the other. And then we're going to turn this upside down and attach it to the black peg end. So we end up with 2 pieces that look like this. Now these are going to get installed on the robot just in front of this frame piece that we have. And they're going to attach to these blue pegs that we have sitting here that we haven't done anything with yet. And I have had a habit of attaching these the wrong way around the first time. We'll see if I'm doing it right this time. Those look too far apart. We'll see. All right, now we're going to attach the brick to all of this. In the pictures and the instructions, there are other sensors mounted on the brick that we don't happen to have. What you want to do is to make sure that the ones that are labeled A, B, C, D, those are the sensors, or those are the motors, I mean. Those should be near the back of the robot, because that's where the motor connectors are, and that the ones that are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4 are toward the front. Now, on the bottom of the brick, you see that there are these holes. That's what we're going to mount this on. We want it to be mounted evenly. And then these up front should also match. Okay, the next step is to put side support structures, these Y-shaped things that we constructed, on the robot. This is to connect the brick on the sides and give it some stability in that direction. So what you want to do at the very bottom of the Y, you see there are axle holes. Those are going to connect to these two little axles that are down at the bottom. And on the top, the pegs that we've put in are going to connect on this side and that side, one down from the horizontal strip. Notice that I don't know if it really matters, but just in case it does, the one that is either blue or cream should be on the front edge. That's the way that it's shown in the picture. And they seem to do that really specifically, and I don't know quite why. All right, so I'm just going to wiggle this in place. Takes a little bit of effort, especially on the bottom. There we go. I've already done the one on this side, so you can see we have support structure on both sides. Now we're going to do one more thing, which is to attach a cross beam right across through this open space. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So I have a beam, which is 13 long. That's going to be the cross beam. And I have a couple of parts. So I have two of our red pegs. I have one of these that has two holes and then an axle at 90 degrees. And I have one of our friends, the short pegs that are half axle and half pegs. You notice this one is gray. I have now completely run out of the ones that came with the kit. I have a bin of gray ones in the cubbies that we use, that we have in the robot lab. And so we'll see if we have enough to share out. So when you run out, just go and grab some from there. Okay, so I'm going to start with this part, and I'll put the peg in the one end, and then that is going to point upward. I'm going to put these red pegs in the other two holes. These are going to attach right here on the Y-beam that we had, just like that. Now, the last step we'll do is to run this cross beam across through the hole. I have to see what I'm doing here a little bit. There we go. Now I can turn it sideways so you can see. So we run this through and then just lift it up and slide it down onto the two pegs that we've added on either side. And that, again, makes this a very stable construct. We have just a couple more steps to go. We're going to add one more support beam. This is a black angled beam. It's got, what is it, 4 by 6, but it also has axles at both ends, which means we need more of our little friends, the half axle, half peg. So we're going to put those at either end. Like so. The short end is supposed to go at the top. I don't know if it matters, but I'll just do it the way that the book said, the instructions say. Okay. Now we'll do this other side. All right, that's all for that support structure. All right, so we have two last things to do. One is to mount our pointer or flag on the small motor onto the robot. If you notice a difference, this is now pointing the other direction because I built it backwards the first time. Yay me. Okay, we're going to add this to the robot, and what we have here on the motor itself are 3 pegs, These top two are going to connect right above the Y-shaped unit that we put in place. And when you put it in that location, you can see that the side peg, the lower peg, connects to one of the vertical elements of the other part of the Y. So you just have to align them like so and click it into place. And now we have our flag. Now our robot is essentially done. The only things that are left are plugging in the motors and the sensors. Now notice on this robot we have mounted 2 touch sensors, a gyroscopic sensor, that's 3, an ultrasound sensor, that's 4, and a downward pointing light sensor, that's 5. We are ultimately also going to put a pixie camera on this thing, that's 6. And we have only 4 jacks in the front for sensors. So we're always going to have to be choosing what sensors we want to have connected. We have on the back 4 motor ports, and we have 3 motors, the 2 wheel drivers and the little flag pointer motor. The instructions tell you what connections should go where. We're using these cables to connect them. When you're doing the sensors, I'll just note that it's a really, really good idea to do the ones that are most deeply buried first, and then the ones that are easier to get at after that point. And one of the things you'll want to do most likely is to curl the sensor, the cable, so that it doesn't take up as much room. So I'm going to show that by plugging in one of the motor cables. And I'm just looking real quick to see. B and C are the right and left drive wheel motors. So there's B right here. I'm going to plug in up there. B is supposed to be the right drive wheel, which is the one on this side. So I want this to go down and plug into the motor port, which is right here. But you see how far it sticks out if I do that? So what we do is we just take it in a coil. We coil it up a little bit, maybe even just one coil. Can't see what I'm doing here because I'm trying to point it toward you guys. And we plug it in. You do the same thing for the other motors, the same thing for the sensors on the front, and your robot is ready to go.